Welcome back to the channel, everyone, and as you can see, today we are building a little PC. This PC is going to be a entry to mid-range gaming PC, and it is going to have some basic specs, but it's also going to have some decent specs. And the idea with the PC is that it's going to be sort of like my media center PC, which is also like my console, so to say. And basically I would like if it could compete with modern consoles. Not exactly PS5, but just, be able to play the newest games, at least at HD, at a respectable frame rate. So, gonna build the PC, gonna quickly talk about the part selection and the costs. So, for the chassis here, I went with the Antec, what was the name? Let me see the box over there. Oh, let's check it quick. It's the Antec NX200M, and I've been using it for a little while now, and I really like it. I think it's a really good case. It has this little window, if I can show you. So it has this little door that you just sort of open up like that. Really easy to use. It's a very small case, but it's small in a smart way. It fits a lot of components. I think even my 3070 would fit in here, so it's a smart case. I really like it. It's kind of basic, but it's got everything that you need. It has a nice perforated front. It's very light as well. It doesn't have a lot of weight. Like, this feels like under 4 kilograms, perhaps even less. Yeah, like under 2 kilograms even. So it has the perforated front here. Unfortunately, it does not have mesh filters, but it's interesting. I've been using this for 4 months now, maybe, and I just cleaned it up for the video, and there was like no dust, which was very interesting to me because it had fans in all 4 spots. So you can have a fan there, a fan there, a fan there, and a fan there. And these are just, basic fans, whatever you need. And then for the front I/O, we have the power button, the reset button, USB 2, USB 2, USB 3, microphone in, audio in. So quite a nice selection there, to be honest. And apart from that, it's the standard. You have your hard drive cage. I have connected I think it's a 2 terabyte hard drive to this, a 1 terabyte hard drive. This is just going to be for games, basically. And yeah, you can put another one inside here if you want to. So that's decent. You can put 2 hard drives. At the back here, there's a spot for SSDs. I think you can put 2 SSDs there. So it's got quite a selection for that, and of course you have your NVMe's as well. So I'm gonna get this out of the way. Really nice case. I really enjoy it. If you want something small and compact, I would definitely recommend it. So to go for fans, I'm going to be adding these Cool Moon Sunshine R3 fans. These are just cheap RGB fans. Let's talk about the costs quickly. So let's leave the costs for the end, and I'll just do all of it. This is just a basic fan. It's nothing fancy. It's kind of cheap. It's Cool Moon is like some Chinese brand, but yeah, I've used these before and they were actually quite good, so I don't mind them. And these are RGB and they come with a remote, and I bought 2 boxes. I think there's 4 of them. Yeah, 4 fans for the PC, so we can see how that turns out. It's going to be fully RGB, controlled with a remote. Cheap stuff, but it does the job if you just want RGB. Okay, let's move on to the RAM here. So I'm combining, I don't like doing this, but I'm combining a green and a black stick. I like to color code, so this annoys me a little bit, but I can't really justify going out and buying another stick of RAM just because it's not color matched, and you can't really see it anyway. The first one here is a Crucial 266 stick. I think the motherboard only goes up to 266 anyway, and this is a 4 gig stick. So we have that one, and then we have a 16 gig also 266 stick from Lexar. So in total we have 20 gigs of RAM, which is more than enough for a media center console type of PC going to be used by the TV. For, again, media center console type of PC, you need Wi-Fi, so I just went out and bought like just a basic 10 Wi-Fi connector for the PCI slot. So that's just so that we have Wi-Fi. Then moving on to the graphics card, we have the quite nice looking Inno3D, let's see the exact name, GTX 1660 Super Twin ×2. So this is a 6 gig card, 6 gigs of VRAM. It's a 1660 Super from Inno3D, of course, and I bought this from, so most of these parts are second hand. The case and the fans are new, but a lot of the parts are second hand. I bought this from a person that was mining, and I'm going to do a standalone video about this, about the card and about mining cards, but I just wanted to quickly let you know. I bought this from a person that used it to mine with, and I've been using it for a couple months now, and I haven't had any issues. So I'm going to talk more about that in the standalone video, but this is a decent choice for 1080p gaming in 2023, so that's the graphics card. Excited about that. The hard drive I've already covered, 1 terabyte, and then on the motherboard I'll show you just now, we have an NVMe drive. Power supply, we have the semi-modular, this is a RaidMax RX 530S. So nothing super impressive. It's a 530 watt power supply, and you know, it's probably not a very good power supply, but you know, it's okay. This system doesn't pull a lot of wattage, and the components all perform well even under heavy load, so I'm not too worried about that. It's not a bad power supply, it's just not exactly received a good rating or anything, but for what this PC needs to do, it's more than enough. Let me fetch the motherboard quickly. So for the motherboard, I've already set up the CPU and the CPU fan and the NVMe drive as well. So we have the Gigabyte GA A320M motherboard, and this is just a small form factor basic motherboard, supports 2 DIMM slots, probably up to, I would say, 64 gigs of RAM, but that doesn't even matter. It's got okay power delivery. It's a decent looking board, but this is just nice for budget builds and small form factor builds. We have the NVMe here, hopefully you can see it, and that's a Hikvision, what's that, CRUS, C-R-U-S, CRUS, but that's a 512 gig NVMe, so that's perfect for this kind of build. And apart from that, for the CPU, we have a Ryzen 3 first gen. I think it's a Ryzen, I forget the name, but it's like a Ryzen 120 or something like that, 1200, something like that. So just a basic quad core CPU, nothing impressive. But again, I think for you know, just media PC usage, even light gaming, it's okay. These days you want to have at least 6 cores even for gaming, but this was such a good deal that I just had to take it. And usually you wouldn't pair a 1616 Super with this. You would at least need like a Ryzen 5 or something, like something that has 6 cores. Like you would go, maybe like a 1650 would be a better choice for this combination. But so the CPU is going to hold us back a little bit, but you know, I only have the parts that I have, and I don't have money to spend just to buy new CPUs. So we're going to use this, and yeah, let's quickly talk about what these all cost me. So let's start with the case over here. So these fans, I'm going to start with the fans in the case. So these fans cost about I want to say they cost me about 200 Rand per box. So that's 400 Rand for 4 fans, which is about, which is about $30. So $30 for the fans. This case I bought for, I believe it was 800 Rand, so that's about $50. So we're on $80 right now. And then the interesting part is the GPU. So I bought this for 2,000 Rand, and like I said, I'm going to do a standalone video about this GPU, but I think it's a really good price, even if it is a mining card, and that's about $130. So we're at 160 plus 50, so we're at about like $210 right now. Then the motherboard and CPU I bought as a combo, and I paid about, I'm trying to remember exactly how much it was. I paid about, I think I paid about $100 for this, for the motherboard and the CPU. So that takes the total to $310. This cost me 200 Rand, which is about $8. So $320. The power supply I paid 500 Rand for, which is again $30. So now we're at $350. The hard drive I think I just had laying around, but if you had to pay for it, you'd probably buy it for around like $30 to $40 for a 1 terabyte hard drive, but I'm not going to count that because I had it. The NVMe, it came with another build that I had, so it's difficult again to know how much it cost, but it's also probably around like $30 for a 512 NVMe, like second hand. So I'm just going to put like $50 for the 2 hard drives, which takes us to about 400. The RAM is a similar situation where I had this stick, so I didn't have to pay for it. And then this one I paid 1,000 Rand for, which is about $70, which is a lot, but RAM is expensive in South Africa. So the total is going to be, like, if I include everything, even things that I didn't pay for, it's going to be like right around like $500 to $600. But some of these things I did buy a while back, and I think it's a good value if you consider what you're getting. You're getting a full PC, 512 gigs of fast storage, 1 terabyte of medium speed storage. You're getting Wi-Fi. You're getting a good graphics card that can run any game on HD quite well as well. You're getting a solid power supply, quad-core CPU, and 20 gigs of RAM. So yeah, at the end of the day, for gaming, it's a decent price for a decent system. After I've assembled the PC, I'm going to go back and double check my pricing and just make sure everything's right. And if I did make any mistakes, I'm just going to put the pricing here, the total pricing. I'll just add like a little section for it, and you can check out what the total pricing was. But I think that it was a real bargain, and it should be around $500, something like that. Which I'm not sure what consoles cost in other countries, but the cheapest console you can buy here is the Series S, which is around 7,000 Rand, which is more or less what this PC cost as well. So we could use that to compare, which would be a good comparison. So like I said, I'll add a little section about the pricing, but for now let's just assume it's around $500. Okay, I'm going to assemble the PC and then we're going to do some benchmarks. Stay with me. Alright, here we are getting into the Red Dead Redemption 2 benchmark, and yeah, this is running at HD medium, and so this is pretty close to, you know, what console equivalent settings would be. So this is a good benchmark to try and replicate that console experience. I think that it's running quite well right now. I mean, it's getting 60 FPS. I might have switched on VSync, so it would be locked to 60 in that case. But yeah, I mean, HD medium, Red Dead Redemption 2, it hasn't dropped below 60 yet. And yeah, fantastic looking game, of course. Everyone knows that at this point. GPU is running at about 65 degrees Celsius. The CPU is at around 50 degrees. GPU utilization is at around 50 to 80%. CPU is at around, you know, same, like it depends, but it's around 80 to 100% for the most part. And GPU is pulling around 85 to 90 watts. CPU is pulling around 30 watts. So very efficient in terms of power, only pulling around 110 to around 150 watts total. And then using around 8.5 gigs of RAM. And using around 3 gigs of VRAM. So we could turn up the texture settings to high or even ultra, and we would probably still be around the same frame rate, maybe a little bit lower, but I just wanted to get sort of like a console equivalent experience and see how it looks and how it runs. Yeah, it's dropped below 60. It's at around 45 now, which is pretty much a console frame rate anyway. And yeah, it's a good result so far. I think it runs well, it looks nice, and let's see how it looks when you have a more direct comparison to gameplay, something in Saint Etienne, which is the last part of the benchmark, which is this part. Yeah, it's getting around 50 FPS inside the store here. Lots of little stuff in the store. As you can see, the texture quality isn't fantastic right now, set to medium. So I think in a real world situation you would probably set that to high just for the visual fidelity, and the rest you would just keep on medium. But you know, it looks quite nice, especially if you sit far away from a TV running at HD. It's a good result. I'm going to turn down the volume a little bit. And yeah, it's still around like 40 to 50 FPS for the most part, so considering that this is running on a quad-core CPU, that's actually really impressive. And that's the one thing in this PC that I would probably stress needs an upgrade the most, is the CPU. Because that's the main thing holding it back right now. But apart from that, I think it's a pretty good result. It's running quite well. GPU is at around 71 degrees now, CPU at around 51, so that's still, you know, pretty good. Anything below 85 to 90 is more than acceptable, so I'm quite happy. And we back to 60 FPS for now. So yeah, definitely a playable result, playable frame rate. Looks nice, looks like it feels nice, and yeah, I would say definitely a console equivalent experience on this one so far. Let's let this benchmark play out and we'll see the average, but I think the average is going to be like 55 to 60. It's going to be quite a high average, and like I said, for a PC that's meant to replicate a console, it's doing a good job so far, especially in terms of cost. Yeah, so that's about it for this benchmark. Let's see the average FPS. I think I have to manually stop it. And the average FPS is loading. This game always takes so long to load, even on an NVMe drive, which this is running from, by the way. It's running from the 512 NVMe drive in there. Oh, that's why it's restarted. Okay, so the average FPS is actually 59.98, so rounding up, it's a 60 FPS average. So that's a really good result. Let's move on to the next one. Okay, getting into the Shadow of the Tomb Raider benchmark here. And this is another slightly more demanding game. But pretty good start so far. This game is a little bit more dependent on CPU, so we might see some issues in terms of perhaps some LODs or long loading times or something, because this game does recommend 6 cores and it's a bit more, it's a bit more harsh on the CPU. It takes a lot more power for the, powerful CPU. So I'm impressed by the results so far. This is running on high. This is running on high HD. So probably around the same as console equivalent. I don't know what this game runs at on consoles, but I would say it's probably around the same thing. And then in terms of post-processing, it's got all of the post-processing features enabled, like HBAO+, horizon-based ambient occlusion. It's got screen space reflection set to high. It's got, the volumetric lighting and all of these kinds of things, except for motion blur. So it's getting around 80 right now, which is really good. GPU is running pretty hot. Let's see if we can feel some heat there. Yeah, it doesn't feel too bad. And this is what I mean in terms of the CPU. As you can see, it's taking long between scenes, and this is where a more powerful CPU is recommended. The GPU is also pulling a little bit more power than what it was, and I think the CPU and RAM is it's a little bit slow for a game like this. The RAM is probably okay, it's only 266 megahertz rated RAM, so it's not fast, but at least there is 20 gigs of it. But as far as the CPU goes, it's got a very small cache. It's only a quad core, so it's quite a slow CPU, and it is fine for gaming, but for games like these, they require a bit more power. And you can see the background isn't even loading, so we are having some LOD issues, and that's what I mean with the RAM speed and the CPU. So this graphics card, the 1660 Super, is a little bit of a mismatch for this CPU, but yeah, like I explained previously, you have to work with what you have. And you can see the LODs aren't working correctly, and I don't know if it's because of a memory issue or, like I said, the CPU, but something isn't working well. But in terms of FPS, we're actually still pretty good, getting around 40 to 60 for the most part. Dipping into the 30s now, with a lot of these more CPU dependent areas. A lot of people around here, a lot of animation and scripting, and when you get into the action, it's a lot more dependent on your CPU. So yeah, basically definitely seeing the limitations of a system like this, and this is where a console outperforms this. So I would definitely think about adding something like a RX Ryzen 5 5500 or something like that. Just a basic 6-core CPU. Okay, not the best result, not too bad in terms of frame rate. Let's move on to the next one. Let's see the average, probably going to be around 60 or so. And that's the downside of a system like this. You have a lot of loading time. And as I said, would definitely consider a CPU upgrade. So average FPS 67. It's quite a good result. Let's move on to the next one. Okay, getting into the Crash Bandicoot benchmark here, and this is a bit of a playable benchmark. And right off the bat, pretty good FPS there. Getting around 100 or so, and yeah, 120 now. The input isn't great, it feels a little bit slow. Let's see in combat. Yeah, it feels okay. I think it's like the CPU is just having to work a little bit hard. but the GPU is more than capable of handling this, and so I think, yeah, it's a decent result, getting around 100 for the most part. And yeah, I chose to play this game because I think it's a console equivalent game, so to say. This is a game that's, you know, a lot of people are going to play on their consoles, and it's a good looking game. It's got a lot of nice effects and a nice lighting and a very cartoony, stylized sort of style. So I think it's a good representation of console gaming. And yeah, this is high refresh rate gaming. I mean, it's at like 135 right now. GPU is still at around 80 degrees, getting a little bit hot now. The GPU is being used surprisingly a lot, and in terms of GPU memory, only at around 3 gigs. CPU is still at around 50 degrees, but again, the CPU is not working that hard. It's a little bit underpowered. And the GPU and CPU together are pulling around 150 watts. Only using around 5 gigs of RAM for this test, so this is obviously not the most demanding game out there, but I still think it's a good game to test because it looks nice, it feels nice to play, and yeah, when you think console you think Crash Bandicoot, so I think it's a good comparison, and yeah, definitely a fantastic result, but you do still feel a little bit of input lag. And even here you can feel that the CPU is just a little bit underpowered for this system. Okay, let's move on to the last benchmark here. Okay, getting into a little bit of what's this game called? What is this game called? I forget the name. The alien game with Crypto the Alien, Destroy All Humans 2, the remastered one. So this is another game that I feel is a good console equivalent experience, just because it's also something that is synonymous with console gaming, and a lot like the Crash Bandicoot game. It's a stylized game, but it looks really nice. It's got a lot of nice features, and this is running at HD maximum, so everything is maxed out, and we are getting between 80 and 100 frames. So a really good result. It feels very smooth. I don't really feel any input lag in this one, and I think it looks really nice as well. I don't know what that is. So yeah, a really good result I think so far. I think it's a really cool looking game. It's beautiful in its own way. It's pretty unique. So GPUs are around 80 degrees Celsius, only using around 3 gigs of RAM, which is like nothing these days. Oh no, that's video memory. So we're using around 6 gigs, which again isn't too bad. You know, most people now have 16 gigs, and this PC has 20, so yeah, that's fine. Using around 3.5 gigs of VRAM then, which, you know, is about half what we have available. And yeah, apart from that, still getting around 100 frames, pulling around 140, 150 watts. GPU is at around 90% utilization, and CPU is at around 80%. But again, I think a 6-core CPU would benefit us a lot. Something like a 12 Gen i3 or a Ryzen 5500 or 5500X would be fantastic for playing something like this. But yeah, I mean, in this one I can't complain too much. It's a pretty good result. It looks nice, feels really good, and yeah, I think that's about all there is to say about it. It's a good result. So yeah, that's it for the benchmarking. Let's talk about it. Okay, so that's it for the benchmarking segment of the video for the Xbox competition PC. trying to see if we can get Xbox equivalent performance for Xbox money in terms of the Series S, and yeah, I'm unsure how this did, to be honest, because it's performed well in the games that we put on it, but the CPU did disappoint me a little bit. I feel like we would definitely need to upgrade the CPU for long-term usage. Right now the PC is just going to be used by my wife to play Sims, so it's fine as it is for that. But I feel like if I ever needed to get any more value out of it, I would probably need to put a more capable CPU in it. And you know, this is built from second-hand parts, so it's a difficult competition to have, because on the one hand you have a computer like this that's very customizable. You can add the parts that you want. If you decide you want to add a new CPU and a 3060, you can do that, and it'll be a huge upgrade. Whereas with a Series S, what you have is what you have. You know, you're not gonna be able to upgrade that really. So, and you know, with this you get customization. You can add fans like these. You can choose the colors yourself. You can set the fan speed. You can do whatever. You know, PC gaming is synonymous with customization, and it looks really cool as well. Xbox is just an Xbox, PlayStation is just a PlayStation. This really looks unique and it looks cool, and you get to build this yourself, which is not something that you can do with consoles. So I feel like there are definite advantages to systems like these, but in terms of raw performance, I'm not sure I can say that this matches a modern console for the price. So I worked out the total price, and it was right around $500, right around about 8,000 Rand. And an Xbox Series S goes for like 6,500 Rand now, which is like under $400. And so I can't really say that if you're just going to game, you should go for this, because as far as I know, Series S's and all consoles now support keyboard and mouse as well. So if you want to play with your input system that you're used to, you can do that now. And you know, this would run games like Call of Duty or Halo or Fortnite, Battlefield, whatever. It can run all those games, but I don't think you'll get the same visual fidelity that you would get on an Xbox Series S, because that's the direct competition to this, because it's closest in price. But on the other hand, like I said, you can customize this, you can do what you want with it, you can replace things, it's really easy to do, it looks nice, and of course you can make a living from this. You can do video editing, you can do admin stuff, you can do office work, you can do video game design, you can do CAD, you can do 3D design. There's so many things that you can do in terms of design or journalism or editing, whatever it is. You can make a living from this, and technically you can make a living from an Xbox, but that's only by playing games. You can probably not stream on this specific system, but if you had a better CPU, you could stream on it. And the thing is, I'm sure you could build a $600 system with a new 6-core CPU, second-hand, like 1660 graphics card. But that's the thing, if you only added a new CPU to this, you would be good to go, and it has more RAM than a Series S has. So I think that's the only thing really holding it back. Maybe the GPU doesn't quite match the Xbox either, but I feel like it's really close. So it just comes down to what you want to do. Do you want to just play games, or do you plan to use your computer for computer stuff as well? Because if that's the case, I would recommend a computer, because you can't do that stuff on an Xbox. But if you just want to play games, just want to relax, then I would definitely recommend just getting a console. Of course, you have the added benefit of this being a media PC, so you can put a external drive, DVD drive onto it. You can watch movies, you can download stuff onto this easily, you can sort stuff easily. So I think it comes down to your needs, but for raw gaming, I would go with the console, unfortunately. So unfortunately, we couldn't win that battle with this, but I feel like it still does well, and it still comes pretty close. And yeah, in terms of gaming on the TV and Sims for my wife, I think it does the job more than enough. So yeah. That's going to be about it for the video. I'm going to make a video about the graphics card specifically soon, about mining GPUs and whether you should consider buying them. So keep your eyes out for that one. Like and subscribe, follow me for more, and I just hope you enjoy the content, and I hope you will stick around for more of it. See you in the next one. Cheers.